There was a night you stopped praying out loud. You never told anyone why. Not your sister, not the friend who calls every Sunday just to check on you. You simply closed your mouth around it, quietly, the way you close a door on a room you don't want to walk into anymore. Tonight, you're about to find out why that door had to close in the first place. Stay with this until the end. What I show you will not sound like what you expected. I know why you stopped expecting. I know why your prayers got shorter, why they thinned out into a whisper before bed instead of the long, hopeful conversations you used to have with me. I know why you learned to smile in rooms full of people while something inside you sat heavy and unspoken, why you started answering, "I'm fine," a little too quickly when someone asked how you were really doing. I know the nights you did the quiet math on your life, adding up the losses, wondering how much longer you could hold this shape before it finally cracked. You even wondered, somewhere underneath all of it, if I ever heard you at all. Did I hear you? I did. And even now, while you believe nothing is moving, I am making a way you cannot yet see. Your breakthrough has already begun. But before I show you where that door is opening, you need to understand why it could not open sooner. Before this message ends, I will show you why the door that hurt you most had to close, and how it became part of the way I am opening now. You have wondered if I forgot you. I understand why. When a door stays shut long enough, the silence on the other side starts to feel like an answer. When a prayer goes unanswered for months, then years, it stops feeling like waiting. It starts feeling like being overlooked. You are not the first person to feel that. You will not be the last. But I want to say something to you plainly, because you have carried this alone long enough. I was never silent. I know that is hard to believe when you spent so many nights hearing nothing back. But think for a moment about how you measure my presence. You measure it by what changed on the outside. A door opening, a phone ringing with good news, a bill finally paid off. When none of that came, you assumed I wasn't there. But presence and movement are not the same thing. A father can sit in the room without saying a word and still be doing everything that matters. I was working in places you could not see, in timing you could not track, through people you have not met yet, in rooms you have not walked into yet. You were looking for me in the visible parts of your life, the parts that show up on a calendar or a bank statement. I was working somewhere else, in the parts of your story that don't show up in a single day, or a single prayer, or even a single year. What looked like nothing happening was, in truth, the part of the process that takes the longest and shows the least. Think about anything in your life that was ever built to last. A marriage that survived its hardest year, a body that healed from something serious, a skill you actually got good at, instead of quitting after the first clumsy attempt. None of that was built in a weekend. It was built underneath the surface, slowly, in ways that didn't look like progress while it was happening. You don't see a foundation being poured, you only see the building once it's standing. Your breakthrough did not begin today. I need you to hear that clearly, because if you think it starts now, you will misunderstand everything I am about to show you in the days ahead. It began earlier than you think. It began the moment I looked at your life and refused to let it end where it was heading. It began in a decision I made about you before you had the strength to make any decisions about yourself. That decision did not depend on your good days. It did not waver on your worst ones either. Here is what I want you to understand about silence. You have treated it as absence, as if quiet meant empty, as if stillness meant nothing was happening at all. But think about the moments in your own life that actually mattered most. The decision that changed everything. The conversation that quietly rearranged how you saw yourself. Those moments rarely announced themselves ahead of time. They arrived after long stretches where it looked like nothing was moving. My silence has never meant I stepped away from you. It has meant I was doing work that noise would have only interrupted. I did not stay quiet because I stopped caring what happened to you. I stayed close, working underneath the surface of your life, arranging things you have not seen yet, softening people you have not met yet, and yes, closing a door or two that you would have walked through and later regretted. You called that silence. I called it construction. My silence was never emptiness. It was construction. There is a door in your story you still think about. You know the one that shut so hard it left a mark, the one you still bring up in your head on quiet drives home, still wondering what your life would look like if it had stayed open. I have not forgotten that door either. Before this ends, I am going to tell you exactly why it closed and what it has to do with the way I am opening for you right now. But first, you need to understand something else. Something about the difference between being delayed and being denied. You remember the door I mentioned? The one that still stings a little when it crosses your mind. Maybe it was a job you wanted so badly you had already pictured yourself in the parking lot, coffee in hand, walking in on your first day. Maybe it was a relationship you thought was leading somewhere permanent, until it wasn't. Maybe it was a house, a city, a version of your life you had already started building in your head before it fell apart in your hands. You do not need to explain it to me. I was there when it happened. I saw that door close. I was standing right there, watching your face fall. Watching you sit in your car for a minute before you trusted yourself to drive. Watching you compose yourself before you had to tell anyone what happened. I saw every unanswered prayer stack up in your heart like unopened mail you kept meaning to get to. I saw every person who said they would stay and then didn't. I saw every plan that looked solid on paper and then dissolved the moment you reached for it. You called it delay. Some days you called it something worse, rejection, failure, proof that you had done something to deserve being passed over. I want to be careful here, because I don't want to hand you an explanation that is too simple for something that hurt you this deeply. What felt unanswered was sometimes my protection, sometimes it was redirection, and sometimes it was preparation for an answer different from the one you had already imagined for yourself. Not every closed door means the same thing, but I want to walk you through what that one meant. That job you wanted so badly, the one that went to someone else. I know it felt personal, but the truth is, that role would have asked you to become someone smaller than who you actually are. It would have rewarded the parts of you that stay quiet to keep the peace. And it would have quietly starved the parts of you that were built to lead. You did not lose that opportunity. You were kept from spending 3 years proving yourself to people who were never going to see you clearly, no matter how hard you worked. That relationship, the one that felt like the answer right up until it wasn't. I am not going to tell you it didn't matter, because it did, and the grief you carried afterward was real. It deserved to be felt all the way through. But notice something. Think about who you were in that relationship, how small you made your voice, how often you talked yourself out of your own needs just to keep things calm. If I had let that continue, you would have spent years learning to disappear inside a life that looked fine from the outside. Ending that door did not punish you. It gave you back to yourself, even though getting yourself back hurt more than losing them did. I want to be honest about something else too. Not every closed door in your life was me protecting you. Some of them were simply life, the ordinary friction of being human in a world that does not owe you an explanation for every disappointment. I am not asking you to hunt for a hidden reason behind every hard thing that has ever happened to you. That kind of searching can become its own trap. What I am asking is that you trust me with the ones that mattered most, the ones that shaped the direction of your whole life. Let me show you, slowly, why those specific doors could not stay open. The door did not close because you were unworthy. It closed because it could never carry the person you were becoming. I understand that delay has felt, at times, like the opposite of love. You have believed, somewhere underneath the surface, that if I loved you enough, things would move faster. That if I approved of you, doors would open right on schedule. That waiting was evidence you had done something wrong, or that you were somehow less worthy than the people around you whose lives seemed to move without friction. None of that is true. I have never delayed you as a punishment. I have delayed you the way a good father delays handing his teenager the car keys, not because he doubts them, because he can see 3 miles further down that road than they can. Think about a parent who gives a child everything they cry for, the instant they cry for it, because the parent cannot stand the sound of the crying. That is not love. That is relief for the parent, bought at the cost of the child's growth. I have never been that kind of father to you. I have let you wait. I have let you sit in rooms full of uncertainty longer than you wanted to, because I was not interested in relieving your discomfort at the expense of your future. I was interested in your future itself, even the parts of it you have not lived yet. So when you look back now at that door, and at every quiet season that followed it, I am asking you to look again, not with the eyes of someone who was denied something they deserved, with the eyes of someone who is being guarded, carefully and deliberately, by someone who could see further down the road than you could that day. But I need to tell you something else now, something that goes deeper than any door, any timing, any single disappointment you can name. Because if I am honest with you, and I always will be, the greatest obstacle in your story has rarely been the thing standing outside of you. It has rarely been the person who left, or the job that didn't come through. Those things shaped you. They were not, in the end, the real obstacle. The real work I have been doing has been happening somewhere else entirely, somewhere you have not fully looked yet. You have imagined breakthrough as a moment, a phone call with good news, a number in your bank account that finally makes sense, a ring on your finger, a doctor's report that finally comes back clean. For a long time, that is what you pictured when you asked me for breakthrough, something you could point to, hold, show someone else as proof that the waiting had been worth it. I am not saying those things don't matter. They do. But I need to tell you something that will reshape how you understand everything I have already told you. Something that will not sound as exciting as money or healing or a promotion, but is more important than all three combined. Your greatest breakthrough is not a thing you receive, it is who you become on the way to receiving it. Before I move on the outside of your life, I have been doing quiet, unglamorous work on the inside of it. Not the kind of work that makes a good headline, the kind that happens on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. In an argument you didn't start but chose not to escalate. In a temptation you resisted when nobody was watching. In a moment you chose to soften instead of retaliate. That work has been happening longer than you realize, and it has mattered more than you have given it credit for. Let's start with fear. You know the one. It shows up right before you're about to take a real step forward, whispering that you'll fail, that you'll be exposed, that whatever confidence you're building is temporary, and someone will eventually see through it. That fear has roots. Some of them stretch further back than you like to admit, further than this season, maybe further than you can even trace on your own. I have not ignored that fear. I have sat with you inside it, patiently, refusing to let it write the rest of your story, even on the days you let it hold the pen. Then there is doubt, fear's quieter cousin. It creeps in late at night and asks whether any of this is even real, whether you're just telling yourself a comforting story to survive a hard season. Doubt is not always the opposite of faith. Sometimes it is the exact place faith gets built. Slowly, one small act of trust at a time, in spite of the doubt, rather than in the total absence of it. I have not punished you for doubting me. I have stayed close through it, waiting for you to notice. I never actually left, even on the nights you were sure you were praying into nothing. Now the weight you have carried the longest, the one made of two things that grew so tangled together, you stopped being able to tell them apart. Bitterness toward what happened to you, and unforgiveness toward the people who caused it. You held on to certain names, certain conversations, replaying them late at night, rehearsing what you should have said, what they should have done differently. I understand why you held on. What happened to you was real, and I never once asked you to shrink it down or pretend it didn't leave a mark. But bitterness and unforgiveness build a room with only one door, and somewhere along the way, you locked yourself inside it right along with the person who hurt you. I have been standing at that door for longer than you know, not demanding you open it, just waiting. And underneath all of it, the deepest one, your sense of worth. Somewhere along the way, you started measuring your value by your output, what you produce, what you accomplish, how useful you are to the people who depend on you. When you fall short of your own expectations, that measurement turns cruel fast. It tells you that you are only as good as your last success, only as loved as your last performance. I have never measured you that way, not once. Your worth was never up for negotiation in my eyes, not on your best day, and not on the day you feel furthest from it. Look at yourself right now. Really look. You are not who you were a year ago. You just forgot to notice, because change that comes this quietly rarely announces itself. You pause before reacting now, where you used to fire back immediately. You no longer need every single person to understand you before you can feel steady. You are learning to say no without spending the rest of the day hating yourself for it. You are beginning to forgive certain people without pretending the wound they caused was small or that it didn't matter. These are not minor changes. This is the breakthrough already taking root inside you, long before you see it show up anywhere else. You asked me for a changed life. I began by healing the person who would actually have to live it. I want you to understand something clearly. I did not stay present through your fear, your doubt, your bitterness, your unforgiveness, and the ache of feeling like you weren't enough, because I was indifferent to your circumstances. I stayed present because I was not interested only in changing what was around you. I was interested in healing what was inside you first. A new job cannot heal a wounded heart. A new relationship cannot undo what bitterness has hardened over years. Money cannot repair the damage of believing, for most of your life, that you were less than you actually are. I could have handed you the outside of a breakthrough while leaving the inside of you untouched, and you would have found yourself, eventually, standing in the exact same pain, just with nicer furniture around it. That is not the kind of father I am to you. I do not build shallow. I build from the foundation up, even when that work is slow, even when it is invisible, even when it takes far longer than you would have chosen if the choice had been yours to make. So if you feel like you have been living in this in-between place for a long time, caught between who you used to be and who you are still becoming, I want you to know that place has not been wasted. It has been the most important part of the entire process. And now, you are ready for the next step. Not because you have arrived at some finished version of yourself, but because the parts of you that needed healing before you could carry something bigger have finally begun to hold weight. Now I want to show you what that means for the world outside of you. Because what I am about to open is not only what you expected, it is wider than that. Now I want to talk about the outside of your life. Now, after everything I have already shown you about the inside, I want to talk about what has started moving in the places you can actually see and touch. But before I do, I need to correct something you have been assuming, because if I don't, you might miss what is actually in front of you. You have been picturing breakthrough as one specific shape, an open door, a yes after a long string of no's, and sometimes it will look exactly like that. But I want you to understand something wider, because I do not want you standing in the middle of your own answer, unable to recognize it because it didn't arrive wearing the costume you expected. The way I am making for you may look like an open door. It may also look like the courage to close one yourself, finally, after months of knowing you should have already walked away. It may look like healing, sudden and complete. Or it may look like the strength to keep functioning while healing takes its time, because not everything mends on your schedule, and that does not mean I have failed you. It may be a new opportunity landing in your inbox next week, or it may be the clarity to finally stop chasing something that was never going to be yours, no matter how long you held on to it. I say this because I don't want you waiting only for the dramatic version. Some of what I am doing in your life right now looks quiet. It looks like you finally getting a full night's sleep. It looks like a conversation you've been avoiding finally happening, and going better than you feared. Do not discount the small ones while you hold out for a miracle. Sometimes the miracle is the small one. Here is what I want you to hold on to, though, plainly. When I do open a door for you, no person has the standing to shut it. Not the one who doubted you out loud, not the one who tried to take credit for something you built, not the one who counted you out before you even had a real chance to begin. You have spent so long bracing for someone to block your path that you may have forgotten the door I opened does not answer to any of them. It answers to me. No mistake in your past can cancel what is ahead either. I know you carry a private list of your own failures, the ones you replay on quiet drives home, the decisions you made in seasons you weren't ready for. You have wondered, more than once, if those mistakes disqualified you from anything good still coming. They did not. I have never once canceled someone's calling because they stumbled on the way toward it. If that were the standard, no one I have ever used for anything meaningful would have qualified. No fear, not even the fear sitting in your chest as you hear this, gets the final word here. Fear has talked you out of things before. It has kept you quiet when you should have spoken, still when you should have moved, small when you were built for more. But fear is a poor narrator of your life. It exaggerates the danger in front of you and hides the door standing right next to it. There is already a way. I need you to hear that clearly, because for a long time you could not see it, and the not seeing convinced you there was nothing there to find. But the way has existed the whole time. You simply could not see it, while fear was standing directly in front of it, blocking your view. I have already been preparing people around you for this season. Some you have not met yet. Some you have already met, but have not recognized yet as part of what's coming. When the right person speaks the right sentence at the right moment, that will not be luck. That will be the same hand that has been arranging your life since before you knew to ask for anything. You do not have to create the way. You only have to recognize it and walk. I want to give you 3 things to carry with you now, because I don't want to only comfort you tonight. I want you to know what to actually do with your hands while you wait for the rest of this to unfold. First, do not force a door that isn't opening. If you have to break it down, kick it in, manipulate your way through it, that is not the way I am making for you, no matter how badly you want it to be. Second, do not go back to what I have already helped you outgrow. Some of you are one lonely evening away from calling someone you already know is not good for you, or reapplying for a version of your old life that I already walked you out of. Don't. Third, take the next faithful step that is already clear to you, even if it's small. You do not need the entire staircase revealed before you're willing to move. You only need the next step, the one you're avoiding right now because it feels too small to matter. It matters. I know that some of this may sound uncertain to you, wide instead of specific, and I understand why you might have wanted something more concrete. But I am telling you the truth. The way I am opening is larger than the single answer you asked me for. You thought this breakthrough was only about escaping your pain, getting out from under it as fast as possible. I have been preparing something more than an exit. I have been preparing to turn that very pain into a doorway, one that someone else, someone you have not met yet, is going to walk through because you were honest about what you carried. That door you asked me about earlier, the one that hurt you the most, that is the one. That door did not close because I loved someone else more than I loved you, or because you weren't enough to keep it open. It closed because it could never carry the person you were becoming, and now it is about to become part of the way I am making. I want you to picture someone you haven't met yet. Somewhere out there, right now, there is a person sitting in a room much like the one you used to sit in, carrying the same kind of quiet you carried before any of this started. Maybe they stopped praying out loud too, without telling anyone, the same way you did. They are tired. They are wondering if anyone is listening, if anything is actually moving, if their life will ever look different from what it looks like tonight. That person is real, even if you never learn their name. And one day, some piece of your story is going to reach them. Remember that door, the one I told you I would explain. The one that closed so hard it left a mark you still carry. I did not let it close only to protect you, though it did protect you. I let it close because the version of you that walked away from it, wounded and honest about being wounded, is the only version of you capable of reaching that person when the moment comes. A version of you that had everything handed to it easily would have nothing real to offer someone standing in real pain. Your hardest door became part of the way I am making now. Someone may find the courage to keep going simply because your story reminds them they are not alone in this. Not because you did anything dramatic. Not because you stood on a stage or had the perfect testimony rehearsed and ready. Because you kept going when it would have been easier to stop, and somewhere down the line, that quiet persistence became the exact thing another person needed to witness to make it through their own night. You do not need a stage for this. You do not need a polished story with all the rough edges sanded down. Sometimes your breakthrough becomes someone else's hope through one honest conversation you almost didn't have, one prayer you nearly talked yourself out of saying, one act of patience on a day you had every right to lose it. One refusal to let bitterness win, even quietly, even when no one else would have known if it had. I did not walk with you through the silence, the delay, and the inner work, only so you could live a comfortable life and move on without looking back. I love you enough that your comfort genuinely matters to me. But I care about something even larger than your comfort. I made you to be someone other people can stand next to in their own hard seasons. Your breakthrough is proof, living, walking proof, that what looks impossible today does not stay impossible forever. That matters more to the people around you than you currently understand, more than it has ever mattered to you. Think about the version of yourself from a few years ago, sitting in the exact pain you are only now finishing walking out of. If you could go back and say one true sentence to that version of you, what would it be? Whatever that sentence is, someone near you needs to hear it today, and you are now the only one who can say it the way you can say it, because you are the only one who actually lived it the way you lived it. This is why I did not rush you through any of this, even when the waiting felt unbearable. If I had given you the breakthrough without the healing first, you would have had a story with no depth underneath it, one that impressed people without ever actually reaching them. Because I took the time to do the deeper work first, your story now carries something real inside it. It carries the years, it carries the nights you didn't think you'd make it through. It carries the version of you that almost gave up and, quietly, without applause, didn't. That is what actually reaches people, not perfection. honesty that survived something hard and is still standing. These words may have found you at the exact moment you needed to remember that I have not abandoned you. I wanted you to hear my voice today, clearly, without the static of doubt clouding it. I wanted you to remember, after everything you have walked through, that I am still making a way for you, even now. Even in this exact moment, wherever you're sitting, whatever today has looked like for you, even before you can see it with your own eyes, it is already being made. Your breakthrough is not the finish line. I know it has felt like the goal this whole time, the thing you've been aiming toward, the moment you imagined would finally let you exhale. But it is not where the story ends. It is where the next one begins. It is the beginning of a life I prepared for you long before you knew to ask for it. One that will not only change how your days feel, but will become, in ways you cannot measure yet, a doorway for someone else's healing too. Keep walking with me. Do not turn back just because the road still looks unfamiliar under your feet. I am making a way, even now, even here. Your breakthrough has already begun. If tonight's message spoke to something in you, take a moment and share in the comments what you're trusting God for in this season and where you're watching from. There are more stories like this one waiting for you, so if this one found you at the right time, consider subscribing so you don't miss the next. Let's keep walking through this together.